Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Undone Season 2, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up immediately after the events of last episode. Obviously, after everything went off with Camilla leaving and driving off somewhere, and ultimately Jacob ends up checking their credit, their money and stuff, and it turns out she bought tickets to go to Mexico, and it's like, well, why did she do that? And he's just being like, no, she's just going to see family and stuff like that. It's like, right, she just happens to storm out the house and immediately go to Mexico to see family. Like, why would she just do that all of a sudden? Especially because after everything was going on, it was a pretty tense situation, and Becca still not having full control of her powers her powers activated, because I think she was feeling her father's anxiety, and she ends up taking them back to the accident, and then it's like, right, we gotta get her to go, and so Alma describes it as like, oh, you were just seeing Dad's fear. That wasn't an actual memory. Because, once again, they're trying to keep Becca from knowing the truth, the extent of everything. Which is interesting because Becca had made this whole point last episode about, like, right, we don't keep secrets from each other. They're trying to find out their mom's secret, while Alma and Jacob are keeping the biggest secret of all, because it massively not only affects them, but affects it affects Becca and Camilla. It affects everyone's lives with just the ripple effects of changing time and everything like that. So, plus, Becca's dealing with the fact is Reed decided not to come back home. Well, he came back home, probably got some of his stuff, left a note, and he can't be around her right now because he can't trust her. So she's dealing with the Reed thing, now everything with her mom, and it's interesting because with Alma, we saw her go back to the hospital, back from season 1, the scene where she was kind of stuck in that loop at the hospital. We see that, but it's a little different now. And then that other Alma's like, the Alma that's already at the elevator, it's like, do you really think you'll be happy in any reality? And that was kind of something I was hinting to in the first episode. It seems like whatever, like, Alma's thing is, like, it's that thing of, there's something there that she's not dealing with properly, because I think going through life, it's just that sadness and that loneliness, that whatever she's feeling truly deep down inside, she's not properly dealing with it. And no matter what reality however she changes reality and thinks she's gonna make it perfect, like, nothing's ever going to be 100% the way she wants it. It is that thing of, you want everything, you might end up walking away with nothing. You might even lose things along the way. So that's kind of the thing. That's why Jacob is telling her not to pursue any of this, not to go down this path, not to jeopardize this timeline and to potentially lose everything. But throughout the episode, she keeps pushing Becca to do this over and over again, and that's the sad aspect about it. I guess it's because, right, her dad Jacob kept pushing her last season to, like, change things over and over again, and now it's like she's doing the same thing because she doesn't have, every time she uses her power, they end up in the fog, so she doesn't have the control like Becca does. So once again, maybe it's because Becca's originally from this timeline, and she's just not a consciousness from another timeline in someone else's body to some extent. So, like, maybe that's what is making it so that Becca's powers are a little bit more controllable. But she also doesn't, like, jumping around a little bit, it seems like it's taking its toll on her in a way it never did with Alma. But maybe it's because, like, there is a fundamental difference. Like, there are similarities, but maybe there are fundamental differences between their abilities, because it seems like it legitimately is wearing her out using her powers, which Alma never went through that. Maybe it's just because Alma's power was always a little bit stronger than everyone else's, because Jacob and his, like, the people that were involved with everything, the studies and stuff, like, he had to use multiple people even just to get a limited taste of that power. Alma, like, had so much on her own, and so does Becca. But once again, I think she's going 0 to 100, and I think that might be what's taking its toll on her, or maybe it's just in general the power taking its toll on her. But ultimately, they decide to go to Mexico to check up on their mom, and they go to see their aunt and their grandmother to try and get some answers. their grandmother says she knows nothing about the Alejandro thing, and their aunt seems like she knows more, but their grandmom shuts that down quickly. And so when Becca uses her powers, which I thought was interesting, that their grandmother was able to, like, the picture wasn't fully forming, the memory wasn't fully forming. So it's because, I guess on some level, because Becca's still, I think, a little inexperienced, but also because at that point, their grandmother was fighting it. I think it's that thing of when a memory's floating to the surface, you're doing everything you can to push it down because you're trying to deny it. Because that's the thing. Alma and Becca are opening up some old scars that they shouldn't be opening up. But now it's a thing of like, right, we got to figure this out. We got to find out what's going on here because we're not being told everything. They find out a little bit about their. I even love their thing with their aunt, where she's like, "Oh, your Tio Oscar, he wishes to give you hugs and kisses," and they're like, "Yeah, Tio Oscar and his hugs and kisses, yeah, so sad we missed that. Yeah, his hugs and kisses, which are friendly," and you're like, "Ew, I don't like the implications there." Like, oh, I guess it gets a little too clingy. It's like, oh. They hang out with their aunt, and she kind of tells them a little bit about their mom's situation. When she was younger, she was in love with someone who ended up, joining the church, and that kind of secret relationship was kind of very scandalous. But their aunt served as kind of a in-between. She would deliver letters that were coded between the two of them. But the church, as well as Alma, as well as Camilla, their mom ended up finding out. And so the man that she loved got transferred to another church. But their aunt believes, like, afterwards, which is sad because she says, like, me and your mom never quite had the same relationship. And she's like, I wonder if she blamed me for getting caught with the note. It's like maybe it was my fault in some shape or form that she lost a man that she loved. And, like, she couldn't stay here anymore, so she left. And she's like, I like to believe that they, because she told their mom one thing, but then told their dad another thing. So their aunt's like, oh, that's why I believe Camilla was living with him. She's like, at least that's what I hope to believe. And so they end up confronting the father, the man that she was having a relationship with, and the name Alejandro, like, he did immediately seem like, oh, he was hiding something too. Like, he didn't, once again, they're dredging up a lot of the past, and Becca using her powers reluctantly, because it's like, right, he doesn't want us to see this, so she does feel like she's invading people's privacy when they obviously don't want this stuff seen. And it is like, you're viewing into someone's soul, and they don't want that. Because once again, like, Alma did it one time. The one time she did it was with Sam. So, and that was like a one-time thing where she saw him when he was younger. That's to the extent we ever got with that. So, it's still unknown territory. But Alma had said something interesting where she was basically saying that Becca was always the most empathic. So it's interesting that, because she ends up taking in a lot of the emotions, and Alma's trying to teach her to, go, like, open yourself up to those emotions, but just let them pass through you. Don't let it sit and kind of get stuck with you, because every time she does it, she ends up absorbing, like, she ends up feeling what that person's feeling in that associated memory. So, Camilla and her lover, they did spend time together, and she wanted to get married and have a family, and he loved her, but they both have commitments to their families, because he's like, right, if I do this, I already got transferred, and my family's pissed about that. If I get excommunicated, it's going to destroy my family. And he wanted to do right by Camilla too, because it's not just about me, it's about you. Like, if we do this, it's going to destroy your relationship with your family too. Like, things are already kind of bad enough as is, and it's actually heartbreaking. And it's like, right, they broke up, so it's not like, oh, they're still carrying that flame. I mean, I think it was a happy time, because even Camilla's sister was like, right, like, she has spent her entire life trying to find love like that, which I thought was kind of sweet, because that might have been Camilla's, like, first love. And that's the thing of, like, you never forget your first love, that first true love that you're like, oh, that love that sweeps you off your feet, you never forget that, I think. Doesn't mean you can't go off and be happy. Once again, that enters the whole conversation of like, oh, do you think there's just one soulmate? Do you think there's just one person out there in the world? And if that things don't work out, it's like, oh, like, well, you missed your chance to be with your soulmate, or just there's more than one soulmate for someone. I mean, there's a little entire show called Soulmates about that kind of conversation, which I think is interesting. But tangents aside, once again, Alma's pushing Becca to do this, and she's like, I don't want to bother Abuelita about all of this. I don't want to do this. And Alma does kind of feel bad because Becca's just like, fine, let's do it. Let's just go find out. Hopefully we get all the answers, and then we find Mom and go home. And ultimately they confront the grandmother again, and there's a memory of her following Camilla somewhere. And now we see why her grandmother has kind of wanted to bury this memory, because I guess it is a shameful thing. Well, because at the time she followed Camilla, and it's like, oh, like, who are you staying with? Are you staying with a man? Like, you're staying with someone else? It's almost like, oh, you're going to bring such shame on this family. Don't ever come back home again, because all the shame, like, oh, it's basically like, oh, what are people going to think about you? Like, her mom, like, it was borderlining like, oh my God, you're so promiscuous. It's like she was kind of treating her like that, and Camilla's like, no, Mom, let me explain, please. Like, why would you think that? I mean, it's like, and for them, it's like, wow, like, Grandma really treated Mom like that. My immediate thought when she was following her mother, I was like, when their grandmother was following Camilla, I was like, are we gonna find out she got an abortion or something? That's what I was thinking. Like, is that what this whole thing's about? Like maybe it's like around the anniversary of that happening, and maybe I was wondering if that there was some correlation there. And then, but Camilla was like, no, come inside, Mom. Like, let me explain. But her mom Camilla's mom walked away. But now part of me is like, could it be that, because that might go into like what she was saying, like, oh, let's get married and have a family. She was starting those conversations about like, oh, this is the dream I had. Because in actuality, I think she had the baby. Either she gave the baby up for adoption, gave the baby to someone else because she ended up having the baby. I don't think the father, I don't think he knows, nor does her grandmom or her sister. I mean, her mom or her sister. I think that's what it. I think that's going to be the reveal. I think that's what the Alejandro situation might be. That it might be a Alejandro might be the name of their son. So Alma and Becca have maybe an older brother they weren't aware of potentially. That's where my mindset is at now. And this is this big secret that she's been carrying for so long, and she has some regrets. It's probably like, right, she's whatever family adopted Alejandro, or whether like it's like, oh, either it was put into works, it's an adoption that was done through like proper paperwork and an adoption agency, or it's just something of like, hey, here's this child, raise it as if it's your own. So maybe Alejandro grew up his entire life thinking said person is his mom, and maybe she had like, it's been around, like, maybe that's why she's been kind of worked up. That's why she's been sending money over these years, just to pitch in every once in a while, because she doesn't want to tell the truth, because she's like, if she does, it's going to change the way Jacob looks at her, as well as Alma and Becca. It's like, oh, you have a secret child you never told us any about, because I think she holds so much shame about it, just because everything, the fallout, that is this big secret she's kept for so many years, that I think it's finally weighing on her, and being confronted about it, and people thinking the worst of her, because she can't tell them the truth, because it would be admitting to something she feels so much shame about. But I think her family would be a lot more accepting of it, but I think she just can't forgive herself for it, because it's like, right, it's not just the secret of it all. She feels like I abandoned my child, especially because I went off and had children of my own and had a family, and so maybe that has made her feel worse over the years about it. It's like, right, here I am having this happy life, and I have a son out there who doesn't even know necessarily that I exist, maybe. That's my thought process. So basic question in timeline A, if Alejandro ends up being her kid, or being her oldest son, oldest child, did that Alejandro not exist? Because that never really came up and we never really saw Camilla like that in the original timeline in season 1. So it begs the question, is that another ripple effect of things changing because of Alma? When they get to the door, though, when it's like, right, we're at that next step, we got to find this answer. But Becca wants to back out because, like, once we open this door, we can't go. Like, Mom doesn't even want us to know. But, you know, Alma, once again, keeps saying, no, this is about Mom. It's, once again, it's more so about, no, I want life to be perfect. Like, everything needs to be perfect. Like, once we fix everything with Mom, we can fix everything. Everything will be good. This life will be perfect. It's like, once again, almost trying to fill some hole inside of herself to some extent. But before the episode ends, we see Alma pass out once again. These abilities seem to be taking their toll on her. You know, drawing in so many people's emotions must be exhausting her. Or just we don't know, because there is a drawback to these powers. I mean, obviously, Jacob kind of got labeled as schizophrenic. His mom was labeled as schizophrenic. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see where everything ends up taking us going forward into episode 4. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.